Welcome to HNB Conversations with Cosmo and Rivka.
Hey everybody, how you doing?
How you doing?
All right.
Okay, so today we are starting with the word of the week, I guess.
The greeting?
The greeting. Oh yeah, the greeting. Yeah, hello.
Yeah, because it's always going to be hello of some sort, not just the word of the week. We're not.
Okay. Okay, so if you're new to the podcast, this is
how you say mountains in. No.
Okay. Anyways, so this is it's the language called Aragonese, and Aragonese is a language it is a Romance language in the Romance language family that is native to Spain and spoken by just over 10,000 people in the Pyrenees Valley of Aragon. And so this is how you say hello in Aragonese. Now, careful, listen. Hola.
That's
how you say
fascinating.
it.
That's how.
Yeah, only by 10,000 people though.
So that's the way that.
That's only
King
by
Henry,
10,000. It's so rare.
That King Henry VIII's first wife, Catherine of Aragon, would have said hello. She would have been like, Hola, Henry.
Yeah. Hola, Henry.
The eighth.
Yeah. Isn't that unusual? So unusual. Hola.
Yeah.
Yes.
She'd be like, please don't,
Yeah, you're a great historian.
do all the things that you're about to do.
Okay. All right, Antonio, you got a question for us today.
English history.
All right.
Royal history is Rivka's specialty.
Okay, I'll spin. All right. The question is, if you could have one superpower, which would it be and why?
If I could have one superpower, which would it be and why?
Right. Okay.
And that means like you could also does that mean like if there's a superhero that you know of that you like their superpower, or not even a superhero, just someone who has like superpowers, like could you pick them?
Who's your favorite superhero?
Like their set of powers? Is that what you mean? Like
I don't really have one favorite.
Like how
superhero.
like Spider-Man has like spider sense and he can crawl and he has super strength.
Yeah.
No, I'd say let's limit it to just like a single ability, so like flight, invisibility.
Oh man, I was gonna
strength.
choose Mary Poppins. She's got a lot of stuff.
Like what? Talk.
Yeah,
She can clean a room with the snap of her fingers. I really like that.
You undertake.
She can fly with her umbrella.
Yeah.
She can make people laugh, and she can make people straighten up.
She was trying to stop the laughing though.
No, that was just obnoxious. But I like her a lot. I like her a lot. She's great with kids, but she's still strong and firm. And I like Mary Poppins a lot. But if it has to be just one single thing,
She's so arrogant, Mary Poppins.
I don't think she's
Practically
arrogant.
perfect in every way.
She said practically. That's not completely perfect. and I think she's not arrogant. I think she's confident.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't get the two confused.
I love the Dick Van Dyke character in that. Not that he's a superhero, but I love him. He's great.
Yeah, I could see why you would like him. You're a lot like him.
He loves to laugh, and you get to. Now she does like. I mean, you can jump into paintings.
I know.
That's
like
cool.
she can do so many things. I just really like that.
Well,
And
I've never thought of Mary Poppins as a superhero.
I don't know that she's necessarily a superhero, but she has powers.
Yeah. Man, what would mine be? I mean, obviously, I always think that I know that it's so cliche, but I think Superman is the best superhero. I think he has the best combination of strengths.
Yeah, but Antonio said we only can
have to pick
one
of those things. So of those things, would it be, would it be super strength? Would it be? I've thought one power that would be kind of cool would be invisibility. Not that that's Superman, but
I would never want to be
creepy.
invisible because I would not want to
creepy,
hear what
but
people
it feels
say.
dangerous. I wouldn't want. I would feel like it would hurt my feelings.
Yeah, no, I'm sure if I'm invisible walking around people, I don't want to hear what people say about me behind my back.
I'll say this: when you're talking about Superman, his power is actually, it's not that he has super strength; it's that he's powered by our sun. It's our sun that gives him his powers.
I don't care.
If you want,
he has super
his powers are all
strength.
related to the one thing.
No,
So-
well, anyway, look, I don't know all the lore of these things. All I know is that he is but in Superman 2, when the bad guys come from the same area, they're amazed at how strong they are here. Not because of it's like if you went to another place that had a different kind of gravitational pull, and you're just stronger there because so anyway, I think I'd have to go with flying though. I think flying would
But you're
be
not strong. You're just going to fly. Right? So, because to me, like, if you're going to fly, you need to be strong, because if you're going to, like, hit the ground and stuff like that, like even Spider-Man has to be, like, really strong to swing around like
Well,
that.
flight includes not just flying but controlling velocity and so on. So you could lift off and land at. You don't
Yeah.
have to drive yourself into the ground.
Well, okay, so that would be if the purpose of my if my purpose is selfish, then yeah, flying would be, I could get wherever I need to go very quickly, and that would be cool. Super strength would enable me to help more people. Or
Yeah.
I could go with super wisdom like Solomon.
I don't know if that was a superpower or just he submitted
it
himself
also
to
didn't
the Lord.
work. It also didn't work out super well for him.
Well, because he didn't actually use his wisdom.
Well,
Anyway, so, what I think is, for me, I kind of like, if it's one power, then I would have to go, and I don't care for her name, so please don't come for me, but I would have to go with the Scarlet Witch. Her superpower, where she can, like, get into people's heads, and she can, like, she has that ability to
control what they see.
control what they see. Yeah, because so let's say that I want people to make better choices or whatever, or whatever. Like, if I could change things to where they could see it for what it is and not just like,
So the goal would not be to control people's behavior, but to bring them understanding.
yes,
Okay.
that's what I would want to be
So
able
you
to
would want to
do.
be able to, like,
With all the fights that I have to, with all the fights, and even with you, trying to
she's
get
talking to Antonio when she says that.
like trying to get people to understand and have clarity over and over and over again, it's really exhausting. So if I could just like get into their head and they could actually see what I'm trying to
Yeah,
explain to them, then I feel like so many people would have freedom.
Right, so much you'd be able to communicate. You know, yeah, I mean, that on that level, that's a good one. You know, by the way, I want to say real quick about Solomon is that it's not that he technically asked for wisdom. It's what he asked for was he asked for basically leadership wisdom. He wanted to know how to lead the people. Felt like a young guy. He was young, didn't know what to do, so he wanted the Lord to give him wisdom about how to lead the people. So that God gave him, and loved his request. But then Solomon made other decisions that ended up eroding his.
Well, he
walk
didn't
with
do what the
Lord.
Lord told him to do, and
Right.
so that
Yeah.
will happen.
So yeah, but let's see, super. So you would go with the ability to bring understanding to people with perfect clarity.
That they could see it. Why is that
Why
funny to
did
you,
you
son?
scoff at that? That's
like,
a
how
good
is that funny?
No, it's not. No, it's not.
You don't think that's a
It's-
superpower?
No, it's not that. I found it fun because she initially said the powers of the Scarlet Witch, which made you uncomfortable. So you're clarifying the ability to bring clarity.
That's
with
her
perfect-
name. That's what they call her. I said I didn't like her name.
It's Dad that made me
Oh,
laugh.
because Dad feels the need
Because
to
Dad
explain.
feels the need to explain.
He's like, my
what
wife's
you
not saying
mean.
she wants to be a witch.
You want, yeah, exactly, a red witch at that. So, and so it just made me chuckle.
No, yeah, I'm
just
talking about her
trying to bring-
superpower. I didn't name her.
He's trying to bring clarity
clarity.
with perfect understanding.
Yeah, you should. Everybody at home should see him. He's like totally like tightened up and is like uncomfortable. And I'm hoping that like most people who are listening understands that superheroes have names that we haven't actually picked for them.
Sure.
You know, and so it's not that you want to be that person, but Because you can use powers in different ways. It's why when you have in Lord of the Rings, different people do different things.
What about the ability to like walk through walls?
Why is that a necessary and superpower unless you're going to like rob a bank? Like, do you not need?
Well, it's
is using
it's
a door really
convenient.
challenging for you?
But what if there's not a door?
There are
What if
doors
the
in
door's
every
locked?
room.
What if you're locked in a room? and
If
the
you've
only-
locked yourself in the room, the
No, not if
lock
you've
is on
locked
your
yourself
side.
in the room.
Who's locking him in a room?
That's a good question.
I
because
think at
he's
the
a
end of the
hero
day,
and he has to
I
escape.
think you made a good point, by the way, or you made a good point, or whoever made the point,
There's only two of us.
right? That
Uh-huh.
that the problem with if I went with flying, I could get somewhere, but then what could I do?
Yeah, nothing. That's what I mean. Like, what's the point of flying if you don't
Then
have any
it's kind of
abilities?
it's like it's convenient for me
But it's
Sure.
also fun. It can be fun.
and fun. Although, and because I could fly,
Well, I mean,
it
I'm
wouldn't
gonna-
It's not
feel as
scary.
dangerous.
well, I mean,
Because otherwise, the idea of being in open heights
Sure.
feels extremely dangerous to me. But I guess that I would feel like, and if super strength would be ultimately what I
I would love it
to
if
be
you
able
had
to-
super strength.
Oh,
I mean, I'd be like, I need this moved over there, and you'd just be like, okay, I'll do it. Pick it up, move it over.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah.
I think it'd be great.
I think I could do the most good with super strength.
I think if you could have super strength and fly, you could like that. To me, would be like a great combination.
Agreed. And like, yeah, that's why Superman, even though he's the cliche superhero, so none of the kids ever pick him as their favorite superhero, but he's definitely the best superhero.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely.
What's your least favorite superhero?
Least favorite? I mean, to be honest, when I was a kid, now this is not true now,
Right.
because they've expanded his story better in so many different ways. But when I was a kid, I really wasn't a big Spider-Man fan. Didn't make it. I just
Really?
No, I was not.
Oh, I loved
They
Spider-Man.
would always have it on the Electric Company. They would always have this little
See,
Spider-Man
we got the
thing.
comic books and everything.
And-
I really
and
It's
liked
not
I
that
it.
just-
they've expanded his story. It's that you've now
You've
learned.
now
I
learned his story
more
because
of
his
it.
story was
expressed-
always
They've told
that.
his story, right? That, and I
No, no,
understand.
but-
I was never a comic book
Sure,
guy.
sure, sure. I
Sure,
understand.
and that you grew up in a tiny little town. I was in New York when I was a kid, and like we could go get the comic books, and they came out, and you'd get
Yeah, comics never appealed to me. I liked Superman, because I'm basic like that. I liked Superman,
he's-
and that
he's
was
a
it.
decent,
To me,
superhero.
honestly, I don't think of Batman as. I don't think Batman.
He actually-
he's not
Ba-
actually a superhero.
Actually,
in
Batman
terms-
is my least favorite.
He. First of all, I hate the Gotham stuff.
Gotham.
It's
I
so
don't mind
dark.
his story. I don't mind
But-
his story. I just think that he's not actually a superhero. He's just a really, really
Rich
wealthy,
guy with brilliant tools, like Iron Man.
genius.
He and Iron Man are
Well, what's-
the
And
same.
I like Iron Man though.
But
Let's be
but-
careful though. Let's be careful.
But Iron Man is himself is
But
not.
at least Iron Man has like a
Batman-
sense of humor.
Batman is an extremely interesting character. That's what makes him fascinating. Is his complexity.
I like
because,
that.
because of his no kill rule, and that's driven from experiences he had as a kid. He is a character that is brutal, and has to learn to be less brutal, and is always teetering on the edge of the moral dilemma of would it be better to eliminate this villain or put them in prison.
Right. I don't know all that. What I know is that he wears a cool suit, has a cool car, has cool. I love the Jack Nicklaus line from the '89 version of "Where does he get all these wonderful toys?"
Also, yeah.
That's a great line.
Yeah.
So he has technology is what he has, and so that it's not as though he has this inherent
Iron Man
strength.
Iron Man has technology. What makes Batman cool is Batman actually naturally is like he is at like peak performance levels in the sense of how he's focused on sculpting his body and is extremely disciplined.
Who?
Batman.
Okay. Well,
But
that's
it's
still a guy thing.
It's still not
Sure.
It's still.
But it's not.
It's not technically. I mean,
It's not a superpower.
I'm not saying it's a superpower, but to say it's just tech is. I'm saying what makes him a
Okay.
hero. He's a superhero, and a superhero doesn't have to be superpowered.
Oh, okay. Well, this was a superpower. Well, I would say,
The
yeah, okay, that's
question-
good. That's good.
The question was
I would
what
agree with that
superpower
because
would you want?
otherwise, in the real world, there would be no superheroes because people don't have superpowers.
Sure.
But like Iron Man is not. It's not just tech. Iron Man is a genius.
So is
He's
Batman. Batman is the genius.
Correct.
Yes.
They both are. And so I didn't. You reduced Iron Man to simply tech. Anyway, I don't care. This is silly.
You reduced Batman to simply tech. You started.
Okay, so what's the next question?
Wait,
All right.
who was my? Oh, you never. I never said who my least favorite.
Oh, least
Oh, that was
favorite?
Oh, it
my
was
question. That was
Probably Batman. Although yeah.
I have a very hard time being interested at all in Mr. Fantastic.
You
the Fox.
Mr. No.
no. Who's the stretchy
like,
guy?
of the Fantastic Four? Mr. Fantastic.
The stretchy
Oh.
guy is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Reed Richards.
The
Find him very uninteresting.
you named somebody that is that his
Mr.
character?
Fantastic is.
Okay, the
We've entered into a whole new world here.
I was gonna say my of the Marvel characters.
Uh-huh.
Not now. The one that doesn't feel like a superhero to me at all
Oh, be careful now.
is
Be careful.
Hawk.
No, don't do that.
Hawkeye?
Don't do that.
Hawkeye.
Hawkeye's awesome.
Hawkeye is great, but
But that's what makes-
he's like Robin Hood. He's just-
No, okay.
Well,
now
yeah.
you've crossed the line. Now
You
you've
know what,
crossed the line.
Kazia Nike, when she was little, she thought
His name was Hot Guy.
Hot Guy. She just thought that they called him
Hot guy. He had the bow and arrow. She'd be like, "I like Hot Guy." We didn't know either. We didn't even we
Hawkeye-
didn't pick it up until she told
Yeah.
us. She was like, "I always thought his name was Hot Guy."
Yeah, Hawkeye's a hero for the same reason I said. It's to necessarily in comics be a superhero, you don't have to have superpowers.
Okay.
But also in the comics, he does have a superpower in the sense of he has he doesn't miss. He's an extremely skilled marksman.
Thank you.
Which
That
is
is
why
a
he's
superpower.
he can
Let's
he's
leave Hot
almost
Guy.
impossible to miss.
Let's leave Hot Guy alone.
Okay, my favorite of those characters, and the one I would probably choose,
Captain America.
is Captain America.
Yeah.
He's the
Of
best.
course you would. Now him, I find to be a little arrogant. Anyway.
What?
Okay.
Okay, so let's go to the next question.
All right, I'll
Not
spin.
arrogant. He's just.
He
We're
could do this
spinning.
all day. All right, let's go to the next question.
All right. Are there any areas where you are polar opposites, and how do you get along with those differences if you do?
Oh. This podcast, it's like constantly wanting conflict.
Oh.
Oh.
Are there areas
man.
where we are polar opposites?
Where are we alike?
Like in a lot of ways.
I suppose.
Yeah.
Okay, where are we polar opposites? Let's go ahead and
Oh,
like
you start.
label them. Like not label them. Like we can
Okay.
count down. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's see. You have way more energy than I do. Like you could be like,
I could do this all day.
yeah. You have way
Captain
more energy than I do, and I'm like, you. Good luck with that, bud. I'm not. You are more of a even when we clean, it's very different. Cosmo does these little piles. Like he's really good at like what's the word, like when you
Clear a room.
well you could so he can take clutter and he can like
Redistribute it.
There you go. He can redistribute clutter to where you can't see it, but it doesn't mean it's been cleaned. And I'm more of an organizer, clean person. So I'll do that, and as long as
So
he doesn't see it,
so-
it's clean to him.
So we have two
Technically,
different.
organizing and redistributing are
The same thing.
the
but
same
he doesn't.
thing.
He doesn't redistribute in an organized way. He just puts it behind stuff.
So he clutters and shoves.
No, well.
Yeah. It's you would tell me it's clean, and I'm like, it's not clean. What are you talking about? It's clean. And then I couldn't find things because they were like stacked behind chairs or like put behind like it like. I
Yeah,
was
so
in-
we do clean differently.
We do clean
When we
differently.
attack a room, my goal is to make that room look good as soon as possible.
My goal is to
Rivka's
actually
goal
clean
is
it.
to make it worse than ever.
Oh my
Before
gosh.
it gets better. So she pulls everything out to
That-
where it becomes this overwhelming.
Because it wasn't clean, and now this will be clean.
So now everything. So you pull everything out, and I what I do is I attack one spot at a time. And that's how what I'm doing is
You do really good at
what I'm doing is I'm going from I just
for
keep
instance,
moving.
if there's
like so I'll go from like I stay in constant motion. So if I'm
Like now.
carrying something from here to there, when I get there, I'm moving something from there to somewhere else, and it's so there are times so that if I do it all, it's in the same way that like when you and I talk about if you list all the things that need to be done, it overwhelms me. It's paralyzing to me. So I have to attack one. I'm kind of a one thing at a time. Like let me hit this section, hit this section, hit this section.
Right, but still, what you do is when, like, let's say there are books all over the floor.
Yeah.
Instead of taking those books and putting them back on bookshelves, you'll take those books and you'll stack those books and you'll put them like over next to a chair.
It depends. I mean, that's an oversimplification.
Is it though? I
Yeah,
mean,
because if I have bookshelves that those books go on, I will put them back on.
But
the
I'm talking about
bookshelves.
just in a room. Like, you don't typically have, like, unless they're your books you'll do that with. But I'm talking about, like, even in the family room or whatever. Things don't leave the room. They stay in the room. They just get put into piles and spots in the room.
Yeah, I perhaps.
So anyways,
that-
that's an opposite of us.
I mean, we're different in so many ways. I mean, now here's what's interesting, and that
this is fun. Okay, yeah,
so,
let's talk about this.
Well, Rivka describes herself, for instance, as an introvert.
I am.
And I'm an extrovert. Although
Severely
no,
so.
I'm not a severe extrovert.
No, you used to be. You
No.
were, and you still are.
I'll tell you.
Just because you actually need quiet time occasionally or whatever, you like to come home to quiet, doesn't mean that you're not an extrovert. When we are in public, I literally have cold sweats, okay? When we're in public, it's someone turned your engine on and you go, and you're talking to everybody, and to get you out of a room or to stop a conversation is like...
I'm not denying that reality.
It's like there needs to be fasting and prayer. where children come together.
Now-
We need to get home this weekend.
Now,
you know?
hold on, though. See, that's... So here's the thing, though. That's not... But... Okay, so, like, if you are talking to people that you're in a conversation that, like, with your friends and your group or whatever, or those that you... And it's a comfortable conversation, it's also difficult to get you to stop as well.
But I don't engage in any conversation. Like, my conversations are intentionally, like, they're deliberate. Like, we'll have a group, like when we have our ladies group, right? So yeah, when you have a group of ladies talking, it can go longer. But like when we go to any event or anything like that, you're the one talking and I'm the one texting going, we are going to have to leave at some point.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's funny when in my family. So I think if you were to back up to our differences, right? They would come even from the difference, like some root differences in the way that our families operated.
Man.
So just to give you some background. So my father was deaf in one ear.
Mm-hmm. My father has supersonic hearing.
So my father's deaf in one ear. You could pull up to my house.
Yeah, we've done that.
Literally, pull up to my house and hear the television
outside.
right?
Yeah.
It would be that loud. And so things were always loud. In the Panzetta family that I grew up in, there was tons of crosstalk. I could be in multiple conversations at the same time. And if you wanted to enter into a conversation,
you had to speak the loudest.
You have to merge like you're in New York City traffic.
Right.
No one's going to let you in. You have to nose in and make your way in. And it's all fine. So then I get around. Hold
on. You said it's all fine. It's fine for you guys.
Correct.
But if anybody else comes into that, they're not going to get a word in because they don't have what it takes to drive in New York City traffic.
Yeah. So this is one of our differences. So then when I was first around Riv's family, one time we were talking, and we're actually no. This is the story. We're downstairs in the living room, and I'm sitting next to her, and and her dad's on the other side of the room, and
Oh, jeez.
I'm biting my nails. Not biting them. I'm just cleaning. You know what I mean? Like straightening my nails. Just
You were making noise with your mouth.
like filing them like this.
You were making
Can
noise
you
with
hear-
your mouth.
Can the microphone hear that, Antonio?
We don't have to. He's like biting his
Okay.
nails.
Filing my nails with my teeth. And Rivka goes,
is gross.
She goes, hey, she leans over to me, don't do that. And I thought, oh, because we were newly together, you know, so I thought maybe she was misunderstanding that this was some sort of nervous habit, and it was a bad nervous habit. And I was like, oh, I'm not nervous or anything. I was just kind of straightening. There's a jag on the end of my nail here. And she goes, no, it's not that. It's that the sound will bother my dad across the room.
Because he has really good hearing. And we probably, listen, in our culture, because there are a lot of similarities between your and my culture. We both have parents that
The
were...
Greek and Italian aspect.
The Greek and
yeah.
Italian aspect. We both have parents who were born in other countries and all of that. But in our culture, we did things like say please and thank you. We kept our elbows off the table. Like etiquette was really important. Politeness.
If I may.
Hold on.
Hold on. No, hold on.
Holy cow. I totally let you talk.
No, you don't get to use, we said please and thank you.
No.
Like I didn't say please and thank you.
Okay. I was at your house. I'm not saying you guys didn't say please and thank you. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that like you guys are like super free flowing. Like my family will pause to wait for that. Just like at the table, like when we're passing things around. If someone asks you for the salt, you give them the salt. You don't use the salt and then give them the salt because that's not ethically correct. And so my grandmother was very posh and very much into like, everything needs to be done correctly and all of that. So that's how my dad was, and that's how our family was. And we used correct grammar. My dad would correct our grammar. We sat at the table. We had good table manners. If you were going to interrupt somebody, you didn't just talk over them. You waited till they were done, and you said, excuse me, and they said just a moment, and you said, okay. It's polite. It's like, but I get like that's where we were different.
If
So
I may-
when I went.
If I may. So yeah, some of these are cultural differences, but so we were polite. Like I couldn't leave the table without saying may I be excused growing up. Right? I had to say may I be excused. I couldn't just get up and leave the table.
Mm-hmm.
I had to say please. I had to say no thank you. Yes, please. No thank you. Whatever, and you're all that kind of stuff. Now, elbows on the table. Yeah.
Chewing with your mouth open? You all did it.
Okay. So there were certain things that were but in terms of
I think that each person's culture and how they operate in their family works for them because it's what they know, and so
Right.
it's what they like and appreciate. So I'm not trying to say that you were wrong. This is just where
we
we're
weren't barbarians that were like, I take from you and you give.
Well, I will say no. I will say the first time I think we were engaged and I came to meet your family, and let me just make clear how much I love my husband's family. I love them. I love being with them. I love spending time with them. They became my family. I truly, truly embraced the Italian culture and being a panzetta because I wanted to be one with my husband's family and everything. So I'm not being critical here. These are just observations. I want to make that really clear. But I will say that as someone who, number one, I don't think there are introverts in your family other than Rhiannon. I don't think that
That's true.
I don't think you have
the four original, me and my sister, my mom and my dad.
Yeah, you all extroverts.
Yeah.
And so we were a lot of introverts. My mom was not an introvert though. But for someone who was an introvert and came from that kind of a thing, the first time when we were engaged and I was going to meet your family, and I think we went to your sister's house and everyone was there and we were going to all have ribs. Your sister's house.
We were married at this point.
We were married?
We were married.
Okay. Well, we hadn't been together very long.
Still, yeah.
Yeah. So we were going to have ribs. And so we all sat there and all the ribs are on the table and everything. And we go to pray. And I found this very, very culturally shocking. Like I didn't even eat immediately because as soon as we finished praying, they all like dove in. Like they grabbed their ribs and they were like, and it was so like, for me, it felt like this frenzy over food, and everyone was like, because it was ribs, it was like straight to the mouth with the hands, and it was seriously stunning for me. I was like, oh, okay. I don't know how the Gannons would eat
Right.
ribs. Like, I'm not sure how that would go, because
Ribs are kind of tough to
well, we
do.
were kosher, so
Yeah.
we didn't have ribs like you guys
Right.
would have ribs.
But even if you had beef ribs,
Yeah,
who
those are
knows?
expensive. We didn't have those either.
Yeah.
But so that was really shocking to me. And then I also learned that it's not waiting for one another to talk. You have to constantly be like in New York, like merge. Like no
Yeah.
one even puts on a blinker. No one says, excuse me. I used to joke and be like, he who talks the loudest has the floor.
Yeah, one of the things that ended up happening too, and one of the things you mentioned, I never heard of such a thing, right? So you're
What?
right into certain what you call etiquette, right? And I understand it to be etiquette, but it's a certain cultural etiquette that's taught and that's trained. And if you're
Right.
not trained in it,
Sure.
So for instance, when you would say, I remember the first time we had this conflict early on, and you said, "Hey, can you pass me the salt?" That's
Right.
why I use that example. And I needed the salt, right? And the salt's right next to me, so I'm going to pass it to her, but I'm going to use it real quick.
Okay.
Because hold on. So that's, of course, this is only what's the word I'm looking for?
Me firstness.
Well, okay, yeah.
That's what it is. That's what
Okay.
it is. Someone asks you for something, and you're going to be
Right.
polite. You're going to give it to them,
and I agree
but you're like,
with-
no, I'm going to use it first.
I agree with what you're saying now, but what I'm saying is, it just seemed only not me first isn't the word I'm looking for. I'm looking for just kind of practical, to just kind of pragmatic, just real quick. I'm just use it and then pass it to you. So you taught me. You were like, that was so rude. I was like, how's that rude? And we had this conflict, and so you were the one that said, no, you're supposed to say, if you want to use it, you can say, do you mind if I use it first? And just simply ask that. And I got that, but you're right. That had never been taught to me.
Right. I think that normal polite things were taught to you, but etiquette was not taught to you. Both of your parents were like...
that kind of etiquette. So yes, English etiquette.
That's the English
what
side of
you're
my family.
describing.
You're Mediterranean that way, just like your culture and my mom's side of the family totally do this, and I'm okay with this now. But you guys will eat off each other's plates, and to not eat off each other's plates, you felt was like insulting. Like how dare you tell me not to eat off your plate? Where I and my side of the family, the Gannon side of the family, would be like, don't eat off this is my plate of food.
So the what we could say is that because there is the Greek culture in your family of origin, but the dominant culture of your family was set by your dad.
Of course, yeah.
And so that kind of overrode. So that sort of from English.
Well, my dad was the
American,
leader of our home.
Correct.
So it reflects down.
There are these kind of, so that's where your mom and I often have had similarities, and where because she came from more of the obviously she came from Greece, but yeah, there's these different. Well, so one time, in my family, if my dad was like, "Hey, can I have a little taste of that?" and I would say, "Sure, Dad," and it would be rude of me. It wasn't rude of him to ask me for a taste. It was rude of me.
To say
it would
no.
be hurtful for me to say no, to choose my food over my father.
Sure.
Right. That it was so the one of the things that we would do so this would be me firstness in another direction.
Sure.
Right. That where we say, yeah, you're more important than the food. And
But
so
I don't think though. I mean, I don't remember like asking. Like, so my mom would say she didn't want a piece of cake or she didn't want this. So my dad would order it. And then as my dad's eating, I don't remember my mom asking. She would just be like, "Oh, I'm going to take a little piece." Like maybe that's how she asked. Like, I'm informing you. I'm just going to take a little piece. And my dad would be like, "Get your own piece of pie."
right. But the thing is, she didn't want a whole pie. She just wanted a bite.
So she could have gotten a piece and just had a bite.
Yeah. Or she could just have a bite of her husband.
Right. But
so one of the time we were, I think we'd only been married a couple of years, and we were out to eat with your dad's side of the family. Mm-hmm. And we were in.
Yeah, that was uncomfortable for me.
And I took a little bite of something off of your.
No, you didn't even ask. You reached over and you took food off my plate because you wanted some. And I was used to you.
Yeah.
Because this is how
And
you operate.
then-
And my aunt
And
was
your
like,
aunt,
"What are you doing?"
She corrected me there and told me how rude I was. And of course, I said to her,
That's rude
what
of you.
you're doing, you inserting yourself into the relationship between my wife and I,
Yeah, that was
is
so fun.
way rude and out of bounds. And how dare you? Because I was not necessarily so Rivka sat there like
I was literally between the two of you.
I couldn't believe the audacity. Like, this is between.
I understood. I know that.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
there. Okay, so but areas. Okay, so that's where we're culturally different.
So here's what I would say as an example of like here's the way that the Gannons watch movies and television.
Oh my gosh, this
Okay.
is something I love about my family.
And me too. So listen. So the way the Gannons watch movies and television is when you're watching, there's no talking.
It's movie theater rules.
Movie theater rules. No talking. Shh.
Or we used to call it Gannon family
Gannon
rules.
family
We
rules.
call it movie theater rules.
And in my family,
it was just background noise.
it was the television was background noise.
But it was
for
so it was
conversation.
always on.
It was on.
And there were movies, and so if you got interested in the movie though, like it was incredible to me. We used to it was like a running joke. As long as the movie was on, everybody was talking. Everybody. And I'm trying to watch the movie and I'm like, guys, like there's like the show or the movie.
Yeah.
I'm like trying to figure out what's going on, trying to watch. As soon as there would be a commercial, everybody got quiet.
It's true. And
Everybody wanted to watch the commercials.
I don't know. I know all the commercials. I can sing them.
I know.
But what's so through the so this was something that
Again, they're culturally different.
that we in our family in this Panzetta family, you and me, the Ganzettas, the Pennons, whatever, that we became more like your family, but not to an extreme.
Well, right.
We became our own blend.
Yeah,
so
that's
that
what
what would
everybody
happen,
does.
right? So what would happen? I remember then over a period of time, then when my parents would come, and then my dad or my mom would be talking while we're watching something, and I'd be like,
We're trying to
I
watch a
can't-
movie. I know because you learned, like,
Oh, I can
there's a
act-
story here. There are things that we can learn.
Oh man,
You know?
Yeah. So I think, the back end of so we're different in so many ways.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm an introvert. You're an extrovert.
I'm
more
academic.
messy because I'm artistic. You're more of a perfectionist and an academic.
Like one of the things that would be just in the way that we learn, or the way that I'm academic, but what I mean by that is this, like I function well within the structure of our academic system. I know the rules. You give me, here's what you do. You give me the deadlines. I consume the information. I spit back the information and so forth. And but I didn't grow up as a terribly inquisitive person. I'm not naturally curious about a lot of things. Some things I am, but I would have never been someone who looked at grass and thought, why is the grass green? How does that happen? I'm just like, the grass is green. It happens because God made it that way. Bada bing, bada boom. That's it. And Rivka is
I have questions about everything.
She has questions about everything. Our Rivka is like that. Has questions about everything, and is always so. She has a way of learning and understanding, and actually is, while not academic, I find her questions.
I learn a great deal. I'm not academic in the sense I have different learning
She's
disabilities.
highly intelligent.
Right, I have different learning disabilities, which makes it not able to operate well in the academic world. But I have tons of questions. I love history. I love science. I love all these things. And so the way I learn, I'll dive into those things. But I also have, and this is about me and you. This is not about the public, but I also have common sense. Like, I also can see something and be like,
Did you feel
no.
that? Did you feel that jab?
Oh no! I mean, when I would pray over my sons when we just had the boys, because we had a child 18 months after we were married, and we'd only known each other 8 months when we got married, but So I used to pray for my sons that the Lord would give them wisdom and discernment. And after being with you for a while, I realized I also needed to pray for common sense. So I would pray, Lord, please give our children, and they'll all tell you, wisdom, discernment, and common sense. Because you didn't have common sense. And it's like I loved him. I love him. But I used to be like, you're the dumbest smart person I've ever met.
She would say to me, she used to say that, I couldn't give you an example of what would have happened, but something would happen. And she goes, why didn't you da 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 da? And I go,
I just
don't
didn't
know.
think about it.
I didn't think about it. She used to say that was going to
be on your tombstone.
She's like, that's going to be on your tombstone. She goes, why didn't you think about it? And I go, well, I don't know how to answer. Why didn't I think about it? How can I think about what I'm not thinking about? I don't know to think about it.
I
don't know. I never crossed my mind. How do I think about that? And so
there's so many things that I'd be like, that's so simple. How can you?
But what I've tried to
and not able to know this.
But to call it common sense.
It is.
No, it's not. It's uncommon sense. Some of the things that you think are common sense are unique to your understanding. And I think a lot of people don't have the level of sense on that degree, the kind of intelligence in that area that you have. And you just assume it's common, but it's not necessarily common. I think you actually have a discernment, and you have the mechanical isn't the word I'm looking for, but you can see something that you assume everyone can see, and everyone can't see it. And so I actually think it's not common. I think you're exceptional. I think you have exceptional sense.
Well, thank you.
But we didn't. So
we can just end right here.
But that would be all of these differences. One of the.
I think the better question is, what do we have in common?
Another key difference would be that that I came in overconfident and she came in underconfident.
Yeah, I was insecure and you were arrogant.
Yeah.
Insecurity doesn't inherently mean.
Well, I wasn't arrogant. I recognize, like, I was really, really. Antonio said that insecure doesn't necessarily mean not arrogant, and that's true. But I wasn't arrogant. I really recognized how deeply flawed, and because my family's more academic, right, and I just was not. So it was really hard when my brother Jonathan is getting really, really good grades, and no matter how hard I'm trying, I'm hitting C's unless it's art. Right? And so I just really, really struggled. So I naturally felt like I was less than, and I was okay with that, but I knew in my mind at the time, I just wasn't as smart as everybody else.
Right. So yeah, I would, and by the way, Antonia, I would say that the arrogance that's usually experienced from someone who's insecure is not a genuine internal arrogance, but it's a projection of arrogance to help cover up the insecurity, versus when someone's internally overconfident and then that just kind of exudes from every pore of their body, you experience that as arrogance too. And so I was definitely more confident. I was definitely comfortable in my skin. I didn't want to be arrogant. I didn't want to be proud, and yet I hadn't.
Well, you didn't know you were.
I didn't know I was. There were times that I recognized I wrestled with that, because I'd be like, I don't want to be proud, but will I? I'd be like, Lord, how will I know that I'm not proud if I'm actually humble? Will I be proud of my humility? I used to kind of wonder about when I didn't understand all of these things, but I hadn't had enough internal adversity that was necessary to kind of soften my hard edges and soften my.
So we've been going through our closet. We're like pulling everything out and we're organizing everything and going through pictures and stuff. And I came across Cosmo's old journals, and I started looking through them because he hasn't journaled in many, many years. So it's from a long, long time ago.
It's from the year we got married.
Yeah. And so I'm reading all these journals, and consistently.
Which I was fine with, by the way.
Yeah. Of course, I wouldn't read them if I didn't think you were going to be okay with them. I wasn't like sneaking around. So I was reading them, and he talks about how he's met me and he loves me and all that kind of stuff. But throughout them, he'll say, Lord, give me patience. Lord, he literally writes, Lord, break me, make me holy, make me these things, help me with this, help me with that. But then God gives him this girl who's really going to test all of those things and grow him in that way. And he's writing, Lord, just really help Rivka. I'm just praying for her right now that you would help Rivka, heal her, God, because these are distinctive flaws in her. If you would just help her, because it's really hard for me that she's this way. And so you go through this whole thing, and I'm like, you dumb kid. Like you prayed, you specifically prayed for all these things. And it took a while. It really took a while for, it took a while for, I know what you're saying. Like when you're like, it took a long time. Yes, you took a long time.
For me to get understanding.
Let me finish what I was going to say though, is that it took a while for me to even realize that I could be right about things and you could be wrong, because you were so confident and I was so insecure. It took years. And I started saying to myself, wait a minute, every time I do, like when I'm doing the things that he's like, no, this is what we should do, they're not really working out. But when I do it the way, because I'm like, well, I guess I'm just going to have to do it my way, it's working out. It took a while for that to happen. And then once I realized that, I actually can do stuff. I know I can do this well. When I began doing that, we then began having conflict, because you're like, wait a minute. And I'm like, no.
Yeah. And if you were to, to on the backs, Antonio, the backside of that question, can you restate the back end of that question?
How do you get along with those differences? How do you get along with those differences if you do?
Okay. I think early on, in particular, it was a source of
fighting,
a lot of conflict.
Yeah.
There had to be communication.
It took hours and hours and hours of me explaining, describing, painting pictures, and he finally would come around and recognize it, but it would take so long every single time. I think with anyone with a lesser constitution of mine, because I'm really strong, in that regard, I don't think that you would have, because you're really, really stubborn.
Yeah.
And so it just took a whole lot. And to where people are like, how do you stay together? Well, you don't leave. You just keep pushing forward. And for you wanted to grow and you wanted to change. Even if you didn't see it, you still wanted it. So it was like mixing cement.
There was this,
by hand.
That's why, I may have said this at some point on the podcast when we've talked in previous times, but I think, have you ever had that thought where it's like, if I could go back and talk to younger me? And the problem I always think is, if I went and talked to younger me would completely agree with older me.
Right. Which is why I don't think you should talk to younger you. I think I should talk to younger you.
I will
be
like,
able to work with younger you.
Like,
you won't.
But the problem is that
you won't believe you.
But no, I almost think the only person younger me would believe is older me, because younger me was so, I don't know.
No, younger you would listen to older me, because if I was able to sit there and express, because younger you is madly in love with younger me. I mean, you still love me, but it's different. And if I was able to go back and express to him and talk to him and share with him in a way that older me now knows how to, because younger me didn't know how to.
Right.
I think that younger you would absolutely be like,
desire. My desire is, even at this stage of my life, is that I'm younger me compared to older me right now. And that...
What? I don't understand that.
What would 75-year-old Cosmo say to 48-year-old Cosmo?
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And rather than be, at this stage, someone who 75-year-old me would be like, oh, son, if you would just get it. I want my prayer.
I'll do you one better. How about right now, my age, me says, Cosmo, if you would just get it.
That's it. That's the point I'm making. The point I'm making is I haven't had to learn when remember this song by DC Talk years ago, some people gotta learn the hard way. And I didn't ever think that was a song that I identified with, because I didn't do drugs and alcohol and
You're a hero.
sleep. Know what I'm saying is
I know.
I didn't make decisions that were blatantly stupid.
In your
to
mind,
me.
you got to check all the Christianese boxes.
I made all the right choices.
I didn't.
I checked off all the good boxes.
I wasn't able to.
I was a good kid.
I wasn't.
And so what that did is that kind of surface goodness obscured from me my internal relentless self-centeredness.
Yeah. I was slammed in the face with the reality of who I was.
I did not see it. I was unaware of it in a way that was exhausting and painful for you. When someone walks with an internal, like, I'm right, but I'm not, but I don't think I'm right. I'm just right.
Well, you would say you thought you were right, but for the sake of peace, you would appease me.
Correct.
Like it was a condescending,
Okay.
well, okay, all right, but internally you still thought you were right.
Right. Where the moments in life where there's been genuine transformation is when I move from, when I would move from having just doing the outward, look, I'm not gonna have to win this argument. I'm not gonna defend, be defensive outwardly. When I moved from that to inwardly going, in my heart saying, don't defend yourself internally. Hear what she's saying. Understand what she's saying. Don't focus on criticizing someone else in your heart. Recognize where you're wrong. When I began to do that and to become introspective, there began to be genuine transformation. That's not the natural.
I will say, as a woman, though, the transformation starts like the moment. For me, it was like the moment we got engaged, and then throughout our lives, I've been transforming because. And it's the whole iron sharpening iron thing. Without that kind of conflict, without that kind of, who you were, and me having to become strong, me recognizing, wait, I'm not always wrong. Me recognizing I can do this well. Me recognizing I hear from the Lord, and I hear correctly from the Lord. I wouldn't have learned all of that without the conflict between us. So I grew from that as well.
I think part of, so there's this, in regard to the question, you're looking at these.
I do want to talk about just naturally personality wise, but before to make sure we answer the question correctly. So when you're done, I do want to make sure temperament wise, like how are we, like personality, how are we different?
I think on one level, there has to be, and this is where it wasn't always early on, particularly for me, a looking at the differences in the other person and valuing those differences for what they are, rather than seeing them as flaws. Seeing something as different, as not looking at it as flawed, is where you can begin to now appreciate, look, we're not mirror images of each other. We both bring something to the table, and we can both have flaws, and we both have strengths, and we can continue to grow together and become one, where we become more and more alike, but still we have our unique differences that we can appreciate, that we can value. I look at our kids. We have you all know, we have 5 children, and I think my wife is, and I'm not just saying this, I think she's a spectacular mother. Not in the way, and she always walks around.
I've got.
She beats herself up. She doesn't feel like she's like, in terms of, it's not the Beaver Cleaver, whatever you call June Cleaver,
I dreamed of being June Cleaver.
Yeah, that kind of thing.
That's what I wanted.
But
to be.
what it is that from the very beginning, because of all of her difficulties with her learning disabilities and her insecurities or whatever, and because she has this discernment, she could see in our children their differences from early on, and she taught me to be a better dad. I think if I had married someone that was just like me, I think we would have crushed our children, the children who had difficulties. If I had kids that
Yeah. Like when I was pregnant with Giovanni and I
Look-
was talking about wanting all my kids tested for learning disabilities, and he says to me, I don't even believe learning disabilities are a thing. And I'm somebody who has them. And I was like, excuse me, what now?
Yeah, I and forgive me for all with learning disabilities for my youthful arrogance.
Yeah. You
but
were
because
young.
I just thought all these kids just don't pay attention. If they would just sit there and
Well, that's what they told us.
and pay attention, that's what we grew up seeing. And because I was successful in that system and I was praised in that system,
Worshipped in that
and I
system.
thought, oh, I'm better.
Oh my goodness, I've been going through our things.
Yeah.
Like our things. You have a massive binder filled with awards.
I know my dad put it together for me.
It's huge, and it's page after page after page of awards and ribbons and everything. I've never received a single award, like for anything. Matter of fact, one time I got called by a gym and it told me I had won a membership and I needed to go down. And I was so thrilled because I thought I finally won something. And it was just a sales gimmick. I didn't know, but I went down and I got a membership at that gym because I thought I'd won something.
Right.
I mean, I don't win anything ever. And you have a whole binder full of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They what they did is they blinded me to the to certain character things that I was needed to grow in and get awarded.
And you
in
didn't
eventually.
have a mom either that was like,
Challenged
okay,
me.
he's brilliant. I need to balance this out
No.
so that he has humility and compassion and empathy. Because compassion and empathy actually are things that need to be taught.
Yeah.
And those aren't things that your mom taught you.
Not. She
No,
taught.
like-
she demonstrated compassion.
Right, but she didn't teach you that you needed to be compassionate.
She would
and
let me off the
empathetic.
hook for everything.
Oh, not just let you off the hook, but she was like telling you didn't need to be.
Yeah.
Like you are so wonderful. You just don't even don't worry about them. You're fantastic. And so
And there was a level of me that knew, no. Like for instance, my father, I valued my dad's praise because it was
Real.
It was sparing.
I value my mother's praise, even though people, and my father's praise. My dad doesn't hand out praise too quickly, and my mom certainly doesn't. Like, she's pretty, I guess people would view it as critical. And it's not that, I mean, yeah, it can be critical, and probably people can think I'm the same way. But from my perspective, when you love somebody, you're going to tell them where they need to change or where they need to grow or what they need to not do.
Right.
And so I had friends that were just telling me everything I wanted to hear, and I remember thinking, like, these people don't care about me.
So and it's so interesting.
I approve when my mother praises me, it's real.
So
if she tells me I look skinny, dang, I look skinny.
listen, so you just bring in that dynamic, right? So that I don't get criticism from my mother, and I view that my mother loves me. My mother loves me more than anybody in the world.
This is true.
Right? And there's no criticism. And then we get married, and
You poor thing.
Hold on.
Like, legitimately,
but
poor thing.
because if you see something, see something, say something.
Right.
You see something, you're gonna point it out.
And it doesn't change how I feel
It
about
doesn't
the
change how you
person.
feel. So in those moments, oh boy, those moments I felt attacked, right? I saw you as hurting me,
Right.
as not treating me lovingly, and I allowed those criticisms to become resentments in my heart. Meanwhile, so here's what would happen is because I grew up where if you don't criticize because you love, so I would withhold criticism. I would keep it, store it up, right? Put it in my journals, but not outwardly speak it. And because that was an act of love. And then in the moment, what would happen is Riv would say, this bothers me, because she was healthfully communicating with me.
Well, we had gone to
We had
premarital
been for
counseling.
months,
It
and
was
she
what
was
we were supposed to
communicating
do.
with me. And in those moments, then I would be so offended by her criticism, and I'd be like, wait a second, because I've been storing up all this criticism so graciously, not pouring it out on you, and you just say it the moment you think it, and but that's how I felt.
Right.
And so you were being honest, and I was being
Dishonest,
but
yeah.
didn't think I was being dishonest. Considered myself
You
as being,
thought you were a hero.
being gracious. Look at me, I'm holding. And then,
So amazing.
and then in my and when I would feel attacked, quote unquote, I would then overflow with criticism that I'd been
I had no
storing
idea
up.
was even there.
And it was so brutally painful
Yeah.
to you, and you'd be and I so I look at that. I said, I'm so ashamed of that youthful arrogance and the foolishness. Like, if anybody
Yeah, but
could,
you know what?
could grasp
those
what,
are the
if I would have seen, it took years for someone to teach me that if I would have seen your criticism, which is not natural for me to ever feel this way, but to see it as helpful, where companies hire someone. They hire people to find their flaws so that they can work on those.
Right.
And
See,
here,
that's the difference between you and me. Like, I literally look like I want to be told what's wrong because I want to be better. I'm fully aware of how flawed I am, and I don't like that I'm flawed. I have pride just like everybody else. I want to be the absolute best version of me. I hate the idea that people are out there like, Rivka's this and Rivka's that. Mm-hmm. I don't want to be guilty of those things. So when someone offers me criticism, even if it might sting a little bit, I recognize it, and then I go, okay, I need to make sure that I don't do that. I don't find it as an attack. I find it as someone who's letting me know. Now, if someone's like angry with me and spewing this stuff out at me when they've pretended to be my friend for a long time, sure, that's gonna hurt me.
Yeah.
But people in my life, when they go, okay, so you probably need to do this different, or you probably need to do that better, and all of that, I appreciate that. But I grew up in a family where there was a lot of conflict. Like, so you could say there was a lot of communication because there was constant, like, our family dinners where yours were like just talking, ours were like debate and conversation and then fighting. Mm-hmm. And so your family, if it got intense at all in that way,
my mom would literally say, please, I don't want the conflict.
Yeah, no conflict.
Right.
So you guys couldn't have those conversations.
Right.
So we were just
And so I was not
different.
equipped to deal with that emotionally.
And Daddy became your teacher.
And I had because at that, no one in your life is close enough to you generally to have that kind of emotional impact on you as well. So when we got married, so you combine the sort of internal arrogance that I had with my sense of unwitting superiority. And then to get criticized by someone that somewhere deep inside I saw as, which you needed to grow. How dare you? And
but
then
here's the thing: you were so not perfect, and in your head, though, like, you don't have negative thoughts about yourself. Right. They're only ever positive. They're only telling you how amazing you are, how great you are, how everybody loves you, blah blah blah. So
that's my mother's voice.
That's your mother's voice. That's in your head consistently. And so for me, though, you were truly, you're just like anybody else. You're so not perfect, and you were incredibly clumsy. And so you were knocking things over, you were breaking things, you were spilling juice 3 times in a row. One time I was like, dude, that's the 3rd time. But for it to be brought to your attention at all, which would have helped you, which is all I wanted for us to be, was the best version of ourselves. You just took it. Your mom didn't ever, or your family or whatever, didn't ever deal with your pride. I think your mom saw your pride as, as like deserved. Like, if you feel really good about yourself.
I don't think they saw it.
No, but
because I didn't walk around boasting.
No, but the pride in being proud of who you are.
Being confident in you. We were taught to that obviously self-esteem.
I think everything needs a balance, because you come to my side of the family and you just end up with 3 very neurotic children who are like constantly going, am I okay? Am I okay? Am I okay?
Yeah. But I do think that if, particularly within marriage, if you drop your fists, if you lay down your defenses and you stop seeing the other person as being an enemy to you, and you allow, when they bring criticism, to say, thank you for bringing that to my attention. It's the most unnatural thing to say, by the way, but to say, thank you for bringing it to my attention. And okay, so, or to ask questions. So how do I experience this? How do you experience this in me? So forth and so on. If we do that, we can actually grow. But what we typically do, what I did, and what I think a lot of us naturally do, is because we don't see ourselves, but we see the other person, as soon as they as soon as they bring up our flaws, we deflect it back, we volley it back and say, me? What about you? And you point out their flaws, right? So all of a sudden, both people are on the defensive. Now, the reality is, if Rivka brings to me one of my flaws, she may be guilty of the same flaws. Fine. But that has nothing to do with, am I guilty of the thing that she's saying of me? And if I can receive that and grow from it, then I'm the better for it. Just because someone else is guilty of the same thing doesn't mean it's an excuse for me to be. Doesn't mean that that's what I should focus on. So through the years, when I've been able to appreciate our differences and to recognize with humility that she wants to speak into my life, or that if I can speak into her life at different points in a way that to make sure that it's because we see one another, then there can be growth. But when I allow her, I think she appreciated who I was, and I didn't necessarily always appreciate
me.
it. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I loved who you were. I thought
Yeah.
you were. I thought you were perfect in a lot of ways.
Right. So I
But I want to talk about like our personality differences.
Oh, yeah.
I want to make sure though that because you went down the marriage track there.
yeah, they're asking us because we're married, about our differences.
Yeah, sure. But I do want to say, though, when a woman is emotional or she's struggling or something hurts her or she's responding in a way that a man finds to be overly emotional, it's a deflection to say to a woman, you're just being really emotional right now. That is actually a time for you to recognize you're actually being super insensitive right now, and the Lord's trying to teach you something. Because a lot of times men, like, you would look at me and you would be like, what's your deal? Are you hormonal? Are you on your period?
I would shut
Yeah, you
down.
just be like, and you just be like your behavior is like ridiculous and
Yeah.
And the reality is, if you were affecting anyone else that way, you should look at yourself and go, what am I doing that affects this person in this way, and how can I change? We all should do that.
Right.
But typically women don't look at men going, geez, I just really feel like you're being super emotional right now or oversensitive. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I do think that in general, I realize there are always exceptions to the rule. I do think that in general, our wives are attuned to our emotions and our feelings in a way that we're not even attuned to.
And
our
mothers
own
are in
feelings.
tune to their children.
Mothers to their children. You're more emotionally, spiritually sensitive, and we tend not to be in a natural way. Because I'm an emotional guy, I didn't know that about myself.
You're not an emotional guy?
Because I am an emotional guy.
I was like, dude, you cry like a lot.
I don't cry a lot.
You do cry a lot.
Anyway.
Okay, so let's talk about where, like, personality-wise. Let's just go straight personality-wise. I'm an introvert. You're an extrovert. You're much neater than I am. I'm more of an artist, so I'm much more sloppy. You're academic. I'm not academic. I have learning disabilities. You don't have learning disabilities. We both, though, love...
we're both highly emotional.
We're both,
and expressive.
And expressive. We're very passionate.
Yeah.
We both love our heritage and our cultures.
Yeah.
And we hope to have raised our children to love their heritage and their
We're
cultures.
both talkers, and we've always...
You're more of a talker, though.
Okay.
I can talk a lot for sure, but if it's between you and I, you're gonna win. I'm just saying. Okay, fine.
I think we are on par with one another.
Okay, fine.
Okay.
Okay.
I think we are a split even on that. But
I think at my age I'm getting tired of talking, though.
see, I think I'm getting tired of talking. Like our conversations.
Well, you
I'm
talk
quieter.
every day.
I'm quieter in our conversations.
But you talk every day. Like, you have daily manna and you have Saturday service. Like, you're always talking, and that's what it's took for you to start to get tired of talking. I could sit in my room all day alone and not talk and still be kind of tired of talking. That is true.
That's I
was just gonna say.
Yeah.
So, but God put us together, and so
absolutely.
these things are things that it's iron sharpening iron.
Yeah. I think saying, Lord, help me to see the person across from me, help me to see them through your eyes. Help me to appreciate their, one of the things a lot of times, and I'm not to stick on the whole marriage focus, but what can happen is, those, I know we'll have to end soon here. Those early resentments, that where I would get wounded by that and I would store those things as resentments, they began to color my perception of you. They would color every conversation. And years later, my little Rivkala was born. And she is, in so many ways, like her mother, temperamentally.
I know, poor thing.
She's brilliant. She would ask these questions that I'd be like, how are you having this question at 6 years old? How is your brain there? They were such insightful questions.
And she's very articulate.
Oh, she's so articulate, right? And how I adore my babies. But so I'm looking at this little Rivkala, not through the lens of any kind of resentment. I have no resentment toward her. So suddenly I can see her through the eyes of, as a father, seeing all of
recognizing how much she's like me.
All her strengths and going, oh my gosh. And then saying, oh my Lord, like the Lord began to allow me to see my wife anew through pure eyes that were not tinged by resentment or because of my own selfish wounds. Oh, you hurt my feelings, so now I can't, because you were just trying to tell me something you saw in me. And so I think sometimes what you have to even pray for is, Lord, go back with me and help me to re-see the truth of what happened, not through the lens of my wounds, but through the lens of what actually happened and through you, and help me to see the person you've given me for all the beauty and the strength that they have. And who they are, because each of us are remarkably unique and beautiful in our own ways, and each of us are remarkably flawed in different ways.
But all of us are beautifully created by the Lord.
Absolutely. But I'm saying to recognize those flaws and to know that my flaws are in process. The Lord is patient with me. How slow to anger He is with me in my flaws. And if He is that way with me, if He's forgiven me like that, of all of these things, shouldn't I be so much more gracious and long-suffering if I see flaws in the person across from me? Of course. And anyway.
So I just want to say, as we end this podcast, that I think you've had a good, I think everything you've contributed has been great, really great. But I just want to say, you did way more talking than me.
Antonia just said that's not true.
You drove this conversation.
I drove this conversation?
Equally.
I think we were both, someone needs to do someone needs to go back and do a timed evaluation.
Yes.
Yeah.
Dude, that would be interesting, because I do think that in the same way we become aware of when, because we're both talkers, and we want to talk. You want to talk. You have things to say, and I have things to say. I think we become aware of when we're not talking, because there'll be times we'll be having a conversation, and I will be intentionally, because you tell me I talk, I'll be intentionally like, I'm not saying anything. I'm listening. We'll be like out with some friends, and I think she'll be like, Cosmo, don't dominate the conversation. I'm like, okay. So I'll sit there. And then finally, after what for me feels like an eternity, so I may be skewed in my perspective, I will begin talking, and then I'm engaged in the conversation. And the next thing I know, it's like, Cosmo, all you're doing is talking. And I'm like, yeah. Oh, I think we're aware of when we're not talking, and not aware always when we are. And that's just my perception.
All I know is I'm incredibly flawed. So maybe I do talk too much. No, I mean, maybe I do. And I'll try to be better.
No one said too much. I didn't say too much.
No. But when we all I'm saying is the whole point of this podcast is for us to have a conversation.
Right.
So we both have to talk.
Yeah.
But in real life, when we're not on the podcast, I do feel often the Lord's like, be a better listener.
Well,
and I'm like, I gotta be a better
indeed,
listener.
I feel that way.
Yeah.
That not that you need to be a better listener. For sure, I need to be a better listener. You're definitely a better listener than I am. I'm saying I don't think you talk too much, but I think we both talk a lot.
Sure.
And I'm thankful for that. I remember when I would go on dates with girls before you. I know we got to wrap it up. And I'd be asking questions, and I'd be getting like yes and no answers. Like, yeah. Like, nothing driving the conversation. I was like, I'm not.
And then our first date took 4 hours.
Our first date, we didn't even eat half our sandwich.
No.
And we just talked. It was amazing. I was like, oh. We were on the phone the first time for hours and hours.
Yeah. A lot of people do that too.
Yeah, that's true. But none of them are. Yeah, I remember being like, man, she's the full package.
Yeah. I was the full package for you, and then we got married, and you were like, what the heck, God? What's with the full package?
There's some bonus in this There's some bonus in here I wasn't expecting. All right. Okay, everybody. Hey, thanks for listening, and keep loving each other. Keep listening to each other. Keep valuing one another. And may the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. May the Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. Shalom, shalom. Have a beautiful day.